Welcome to the Tearing It Up podcast. I'm your host, Taryn. We'll be tearing it up, tearing it down, and tearing it apart, dissecting all things related to those who deviate from the standard. From leaders of their industry to leaders of mediocrity, and maybe a gear review or two thrown in. We shoot the shit and let the conversations flow, so if that's not your style, this may not be for you. Otherwise, listen in. Hope to light a fire in you somehow. Hello, everybody. Welcome back for another episode of Tearing It Up. And I was going to say this might as well be like bike month, but I think it actually is bike month. I just thought about I've seen some posts but who knows, every month, every day has some kind of national like weird holiday or, week or something to it. So I'll have to fact check myself, but it may be bike month. It is, according to the email I got from Smith last night, bike to work week. So it's still biking. In this episode will actually be very timely from the time we're recording to the time it's live. It will still be bike to work week. It'll just be late in the week. So hopefully y'all can bike to work. I'm kind of biking to work today, but not so much work, but just to fetch my vehicle from getting back from the Pacific Northwest, a good 10 days up there, and now back in Tahoe, ready to just get back to the grind. And I'm really excited today to have our guest, Tasha Woodworth, and also, I guess I should have asked you first, do you prefer to go by Tasha?
That's a great question. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Okay.
Tasha's mostly what people call me. Like on the internet, for some reason, everything is Natasha because that's my real name. But
got it. Okay. Well, Natasha, she is here from Curious Creatures, founder of Curious Creatures. So a awesome bike brand that I was able to, for the first time, actually like touch and feel and try some clothes on at Sea Otter this year. I've been like seeing the brand and following them for a bit. Last year at Sturdy Dirty, they were there, but we did not get the chance to kind of stop by and do our vendor visits and stuff that we did the year before, since Amber and I were both racing and we were in the longer race than the year before, and I crashed at the end of my race, and it was hot as shit. And yeah, we just didn't. I was burnt out at the end of that day that we just found shade and kind of like died a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if I actually got mildly concussed from that crash because there were some dents in my helmet. But yeah, so I'm really excited to talk about Curious Creatures, what you all are like up to today, because I know it hasn't really been that long since you guys have been in business, but I also know you have a big or longer history in the outdoor industry too. So I'm just excited to kind of dive in, hear it all, and how you got to where you are today. So we love to start out asking the guests like where you are physically in the world as you are recording right now.
Yeah, so I'm in Bozeman, Montana.
Awesome. Okay. And how long have you been in Bozeman?
I've been here a little over 5 years, or like just about 5 years. Which is crazy. That went by pretty fast. Yeah.
Where'd you come from? Like, I mean, I guess this could be a loaded question because, like, where'd you come from before? It could be, a million different kind of stops on the way. But I guess we'll really start with, like, from the beginning-ish of where did you grow up? Like, were you always kind of in the outdoors or outdoor sports related realm? Or let's start there.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, good question. Curious Creatures is only, like you said, it's launched September 2023. So this is only our second year of like a mountain bike season. So we are super brand new. But then going all the way back to where I grew up, I was born in Vermont and lived there when I was really young. And then my family moved to Massachusetts for some points in time and then moved back to Vermont. My parents are now back in Vermont. So yeah, I was always in kind of the New England area. And in terms of if I was always in outdoor, it's kind of like a convoluted path. But my parents were both actually professional ski racers. So I did always have like a little bit of a, yeah, I guess you could say outdoor sport background. I think since I was very little, they had me skiing when I was like 11 months old and stuff. And yeah, sports have always been a huge part of my family's life, both in my parents' side, I've had cousins go to the Olympics. My sister was a professional hockey player. So, um, yeah, I would say like outdoor and sports has always been kind of in our blood. And I think growing up in Vermont too was like a really beautiful, like idyllic childhood, right? There's just, it's similar to Montana. There's not a lot of people and tons of woods and remote places to play and stuff like that. Yeah.
Awesome. Were you so I know mountain biking obviously has like drastically it feels like for me anyways like morphed over the last decade for sure with just technology and with everything. There's just more access to it for many different reasons. More people are able to get out and bike and whatnot. But biking for me as a kid, was riding around. I grew up in a city and it was just like riding around the block, or riding over to my friend's house or something. And as I got older, same thing. It was like just kind of I didn't commute a lot via bike. My co-host Amber, who's not here today,
Yeah.
she kind of got me a little more into bikes as I got older and went through the stage of in like high school or just biking less because you're not biking around with your friends, you're doing just hanging out, like
Yeah.
that kind
Yeah.
of thing, especially in the
Uh-huh.
city. Um, and so I got back into it a little bit more as I got older and I had moved in with Amber and she and some of our other roommates were like commuting a lot via bike. And so I
Yeah.
found that love again for it, but it wasn't until my mid 20s, like mid later 20s moving to Tahoe that I kind of discovered mountain biking. And
Sure.
I'm curious about your path with bicycling and where it all started for you, if that was kind of a love you always had or similar path of kind of like in and out of your life based on changes of like where you were in life.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Kind of similar to you actually, where of course, like as a kid, I still have like little photos of me with my little white Huffy. It was like a
Yeah.
little white Huffy with like the black splatter paint from the
Mhm.
late 80s and early 90s. It was so sick. They should bring that paint job back. But
Absolutely.
yeah, so like had childhood of riding around on bikes. And then I actually took the path similar to my parents of doing competitive ski racing for a lot of my life. So I did that also for 2 years in Europe in between high school and college and kind of was focused on that for a lot of my my like adolescence and stuff. But I say that because ski racing comes with tons of injuries. I had like basically every year some kind of knee surgery, and
Oh.
biking was the best rehab for it. And so that's actually how I got into it when I was maybe like 14 or 15, maybe a little bit older. But yeah, being in Vermont and trying to train for ski racing and having all these injuries and all these knee surgeries, you couldn't run or hike or do stuff like that. But one of the first things you could do after a knee surgery was actually ride a bike.
Mhm.
So it became something I did a lot during that time and kind of like a mental health lifesaver too, when you're injured and you can't go skiing and all your friends are like maybe going to Mount Hood to go train for the summer. I remember having to like stay behind, but at least I had like my little mountain bike and I could go out and train that way and still have fun. So yeah, that's was kind of like my high school experience with it. And then in college, I still ski raced a lot and skiing was my main focus. And yeah, ski raced at Middlebury College. And then I actually went to design school in New York City afterwards. So did a lot of, I went to Parsons, which is like very fashion design stuff. But to make a long story short, I didn't ride my bike for many years. And then it was actually when I was working at Patagonia in California, um, when I kind of fell back in love with it, similar to you, where I was like, oh, wow, this is just like the same fun feeling as being a little kid. And the
Yes.
bikes were getting so good. And um, California had lots of great trails. And yeah, so got back into it then, which was now probably 10 years ago.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's kind of
Yeah,
the bike journey.
I love
And
that.
it's fun. It's like still, I mean, I go out with my parents still. They're like almost 70. It's so fun fun for the whole fam.
Yeah, it really is, and it's just interesting, when I think back about it, and like I said, for me and my view of biking, where it really did take a back seat and kind of a big break, and also from what I how I do it now is so different from when I was younger. Like how you mentioned, it became kind of a mental health thing for you, where you could get out and do this thing while your friends were out doing the other thing that you loved but couldn't always
Yeah.
participate in. And for me, I think when I took that break and was just kind of like didn't have a spark that it had when I was a kid, was because the style that it was, like being in the city and kind of commuting and whatnot, where I was like, well, that it was kind of more stressful at times because you're just in the crossing roads with cars,
Yeah,
yada
sure.
yada. That I was like, this isn't like fun, and it wasn't fun for me to commute via bike until I moved to Alaska, and I was
Oh,
still commuting
cool.
like on the road to and from work, but it was much less stressful than like in the city of Tacoma, where there's a lot more traffic and things. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I can like get into like I love biking when there's no cars around. So then finding mountain
Yes.
biking too, and like downhill and
Mhm.
being in the dirt, because I just loved being in the dirt and outside, like in nature, not just
Uh-huh.
outside. So that connection, like I said, it was really like being a kid again, like woohoo, like flying with the
Yeah.
streamers from your handlebars and,
Nice. Yeah.
and that kind of thing. And you're right, it's amazing to see people these days too, like of all ages out there. We have some family friends here in Tahoe, and just obviously in Tahoe, it's a mecca for people of all ages are doing things. That's why I love being here. It's kind of a motivation that
Yeah.
like I can keep doing this for forever, because you see people all the time out of all ages. So these family friends of ours, they're older in their 60s, 70s, and I think they're mountain biking more than I am.
Yeah,
Obviously, it's like a little
right.
bit different style, but I'm like, yeah, they're out there multiple times a week, and there's sometimes I get stuck in the grind where I'm like, I haven't been on my bike in 2 weeks, and then
I
like
know.
these guys
Yeah.
are over here are out there every day at the trails behind
Retired,
their
just
house,
crushing
like
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And like sure, they're on e-bikes too, but I'm like, well, I should just get an e-bike also.
I know, that's how my parents are for sure. I'll be like, "What did you do today?" And they're like, "Oh, just a little 3.5 hour ride." I'm like, "Wow, you guys have 3.5 hours to go. That's
Yeah,
great."
absolutely. It's a interesting time midlife to still try to do all the things, but there's really just not that much time. Excuse me, dog. Off.
I know.
Um, so you mentioned design school in Patagonia, and I'd love to kind of get more into that path, because we've had a few guests on who have done similar paths where they went to design school, or like more on that fashion side of things, and apparel is how they got started. And I always find it interesting how people make the transition from the higher kind of fashion to the outdoors. And obviously, it's like we have a ton of interests as humans. So you can be interested in fashion and then also love to get outside. So you're like, oh, let's intersect these. How can I make technical wear that also like looks good or feels good or whatnot? And yeah, I think, like I said, it's just so interesting because these weren't things that I feel like we heard a lot about. And I also think that's because there was far less women doing these things before. Less
Mhm.
women starting their own companies, or uh, just being on the forefront, I guess. So we were not hearing the stories, because you don't hear about, obviously there's men in fashion school too, but we just don't hear a lot about the men in fashion school coming to the outdoor industry or anything. It seems like it was the women's thing to go to fashion school and men to be in the outdoors. So seeing these two intersect and hearing a lot more about it recently has been super interesting to me, and I love diving into that. So
Yeah.
was that something you were interested in from a young age, fashion and design? How did you get into the path of going to college for that?
Yeah, I had always been artistic, and, like, even from a little girl was always drawing and, like, doing sculpture and stuff, and then, in my undergrad, I actually was, like, an English and, studio art major, so I did lots of sculpture. I loved just, like, making things with my hands, and yeah, you kinda get to the end of a nice liberal arts college 4 years, and you're like, "Oh, yeah, so how am I gonna make a career out of this? Like, this is not I don't wanna be, like, living under a bridge. But so design seemed like a really cool way to take some of that sculpture and art, and like making things with your hands and like putting things out into the world in a way that could actually be, more of a career path. And so I did go to Parsons, which is super, yeah, like I said, pretty fashion oriented. And honestly, like at the time, I kind of was into it. I was like, maybe I'll live in New York City and do fashion. And I did love it for basically like a year and a half because school is so great there. And Parsons is like, you're just like drinking from the fire hose. You have learned so much, and it's such a mecca for fashion in New York City. Like I was interning at Fashion Week every year and like doing runway, not me doing runway shows, but like dressing the people in runway shows and like really seeing all the behind the scenes stuff, which was so cool. But then like very quickly, I think some of that wore off. And then a lot of the things that I really cared about, which were like being outside, being in nature, started to kind of, yeah, it's just like harder to do in New York. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And even that fashion community is not super focused on that stuff. A lot of the sustainability stuff, which was really important to me, was still just not really there in fashion. And I just like had a hard time feeling like I was making things or helping companies make things for not a whole lot of reason. And so that's when I started to look more into the sports side of things. So I actually got my first job after all these fashion companies, and they were great too. Like I had such crazy experiences. I worked for a costume designer for a while, and she would make the most wild things, like stuff for Marc Jacobs fashion runway show, and like these crazy like head chandeliers and just really artistic stuff, which was really cool. But then, yeah, I was starting to try to look more in the sports side of things. And I actually got a job at Roxy in California,
Oh, cool.
the surf company. So I was pretty psyched about that. I went out there and then I started interviewing actually at Patagonia because I was kind of like, oh, that would be a dream job. But I have this Roxy job. I'll go here. I'll do the Roxy thing. And I was so psyched. I was like, gonna learn how to surf. And then I moved all my stuff out there. And then the company went bankrupt like 4 weeks later or something.
Oh my
So
God.
everyone got laid off.
Oh.
And they like, I mean, now they're kind of back on their feet and stuff. But at the time it was like, oh no. But I had started kind of the interview process with Patagonia, which was really lucky. I like called them back up. I was like, actually, I do have a lot of time to come up and interview now. And that thankfully worked out. So I was an assistant designer there. And yeah, just started kind of learning from everyone. I think what you said is true. I think in the outdoor, or I know in the outdoor industry, especially working on like the technical sports driven stuff, it's a lot of industrial designers actually.
Mm-hmm.
So that field is typically male. It's like a lot more hard goods and designing things like stereos or cars and things like that. So you get that degree if you want to go into those kind of fields, which are really male dominated. And then the fashion side is oddly more female dominated. But you don't get some of the industrial design background. And so I feel like I was pretty lucky because I had the fashion background and then I got hired onto a team of all male industrial designers and was their assistant for a couple of years. And they taught me a ton of the technical, more like industrial, more almost like engineering side of design, which was really cool. And because I was the only female, they gave me a lot of opportunity to have a voice and have a say in making some of the women's product, which was really neat. And yeah, just gave me a lot of exposure and experience pretty early on. And I learned a ton from those guys. And then I stayed there for almost 10 years.
Wow.
I actually like worked on a lot of the alpine stuff and climbing stuff. Skiing's obviously like a huge part of my background, so I worked on that a little bit, mostly like the backcountry side. Um, yeah, and it was great. Had just like such a nice team of people that I miss working with.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Now that I'm alone in my basement all the time.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, so that's a little bit of kind of the design background stuff. And then I actually ended my last year there. I was on the advanced R&D team, which is just working on like special projects a little bit further out, working really closely with athletes, doing kind of like those pinnacle design systems like the high alpine kit or yeah, things that are super, super technical focused and really end use driven. Yeah, if that
That's
kind of answers.
awesome. Well, okay, so when you took this job with Roxy and went to California, you've been on the East Coast all or most of your life at this point. At How was that move for you, just like picking up and moving across country? Like, how, not that age necessarily has a lot to do with it or anything, but at that point in your life, like, how old were you that it was just like, were you scared to leave the family and everything? Had you been to the West Coast before, or were you at the stage where you're like, I am just, ready to go try something new? And obviously, there's going to be a little bit of fear with everything brand new, but how were your feelings about that? Was it instant?
Yeah.
You knew that you were going to go, or did you have any kind of debate in your head of like, I don't know, is this right? I'm going to do it anyways.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I was pretty excited. And again, like I think it's probably a lot to do with the ski racing background. We just traveled a ton and like I was always kind of like living out of a suitcase,
Okay.
especially in the
Yeah.
winter time. We would like race in Europe and be just like bopping around from country to country for like 4 months. And yeah, so the idea of just like trying something new was exciting, but it was a really special time. Like I look around now, even just like I'm like, wow, when I moved to California, I like moved there with a hockey bag full of stuff. Like, that
Yeah.
time in your life where you
Hmm.
just don't have that much stuff and it's like so freeing and simple. And you had like what I remember going to the thrift store and buying like 2 spoons and a fork and like
Yep.
you just didn't need all this. Like now I have a kid, so I'm like, oh my God, there's stuff everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, and so like, this came to mind for me because maybe it's, like, the stage of life I'm in where thinking back and, that's kinda how I got to Tahoe too, was also just a bag of shit, stuff in my truck, my bike or this or that, paddleboard, and still had so much stuff at my parents' that it was like every time I went back to Washington, I'd, like, bring more stuff down.
Yeah, they're like,
Um
"Get rid of it." Now my parents,
Yeah,
"We don't want this."
absolutely. But I see people in their adult life with kids and everything who take jobs and, move across the country or different state, and I'm like, "Man, that's awesome." But I also grew up in the same place for my whole childhood, so I
Yeah,
I have a hard time not having kids and thinking like, "Man, would I ever move, like, far away for a job?" It's just hard for me to imagine that, like, I could
yeah,
pick up and really move. I'm like, I don't want to, like, I love it
yeah,
here
you're
in
in a good
Truckee,
place.
but that thought has come up a lot because there's not that many job opportunities really. There's a lot more with things being remote, but a lot of people are going back in office, and so it's just been one of those things of, I see these great positions come up and I'm like, man, people do pack up and move their whole lives for a job. And
Yeah,
when I was younger, yeah, I was doing that. I picked up and went to Alaska for a summer job. I picked up and came to
right.
Tahoe for a winter job. But I'm just like, oh my God, it's totally different now. I'm like, I don't know that I would ever like be able to move for a job. So it's really interesting being at this stage of life now. I'm thinking back to how easy it was to just throw stuff in a bag and like, all right, let's throw caution
Yeah,
to the wind, go see how this goes. And I can always just go back to my parents' basement.
yeah, it's true. Yeah, I think that's the way you think about it, right? Is like nothing is permanent. Even because we moved here to Bozeman during COVID, we were like some of those folks where we were like, okay, can't really ever buy a house in California.
Mhm.
And our office was closed for like 2.5 years or something. So we were like,
Wow.
so we did actually just put all of our stuff in storage, and we um took our camper with our two cats in it, which was a nightmare. Seriously, if you want to get almost divorced, you should make your husband sleep with like a litter box by his head for sure. Um, but and then we came here for almost like 8 months, and between like Airbnbs, staying with friends and staying in the camper. And then we just really liked it here. And there were actually a couple other folks here that we worked with at Patagonia. So we were able to kind of like make a little workspace together, even though we were all remote. Yeah. And then it kind of snuck up on us too, because then when they called everyone back to go back to the office, um, my partner and I were kind of like, it was a hard decision for sure, but decided to stay here. And then that's what was really nice and kind of opened up the path to start Curious Creatures too, actually.
Oh, wow.
Because I didn't really, Patagonia was a great place to work, and um, could have stayed there probably forever. But yeah, I wanted to be in the mountains and have seasons. I'm just like, every time the seasons change, it just makes my heart feel so happy. And um, yeah, so then it became kind of a good time to this thing that I had always like thought about or like had in the back of my mind. It was kind of like, okay, maybe the timing's right to give it a go.
I love that. Because I was wondering, people had people work from all over with Patagonia. They have offices everywhere. So I was curious if you were in the same place in California for the duration of your Patagonia career. So you were up until COVID when everything closed and they put everyone remote.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I was in like the Ventura area, Santa Barbara, that zone. Yeah.
Yeah, big change for like Vermont or East Coast, like in seeing
Yeah,
seasons, right? To then be in Ventura for like
it was.
year round and to just like, okay, is it May or June or
I
December?
know. It
Like,
was great. Like so many things. Like I did actually learn to surf.
awesome. Okay,
And
yes.
things like that were really wonderful. But I did work on a lot of winter product, and that was like pretty tough for me to be, because it was like very much a part of the design process to work on that stuff and then try it out yourself and like
Right.
be in the cold and be ripping your skins off and like realize that your zipper doesn't work. And Patagonia was really great at enabling that, and supporting us to do trips, and we would go to the Sierras all the time. And I still like the mountains in California are world class, but
Mhm.
it was just nice, like in working on Curious Creatures, that I can like in my basement sew up some shorts and then go out and try them. The trailhead's like 2.5 miles away, and just some of that proximity and having some of the weather and seasons to test things is really nice.
I was wondering if there was a point in time really that you could pinpoint where you in your head kind of made that switch to wanting to create something of your own with Curious Creatures being mountain bike specific, at least right now. I don't know if you have other plans or anything, but like you said, at Patagonia or just before with skiing kind of being the top of your list and the big thing for you, the winter, and just being near and dear to your heart. Yeah, was it moving to Bozeman, or where did the transition come from of mountain biking kind of taking precedence and then turning towards wanting to create your own mountain bike line?
Oh, that's a cool question. There's probably like so many different answers. One would be just where my parents live right now. They live in Eastburg, Vermont, and that's where I went to high school. And I just have watched how, I don't know if you guys, listeners probably have heard about the Kingdom Trails up there. It's like 200 miles of private land trails that they've connected to make like this incredible mountain bike network. And as we were talking about earlier, just like the access to mountain biking in the past couple of years has been so neat for me to watch, because that town, when I went to high school there, was like, there's not much to do. And there was like, it was hard to even like get teachers to move there because, yeah, there was just like not that much going on. There was one bad restaurant that you got stuck at like, most of the time, and like a gas station and a general store. And now with this incredible trail network that they've built in the past like 10 or 15 years, there's just all of a sudden like great community there, and it's brought lots of people there that come and visit on weekends. So now there's more economy, like actual restaurants can survive. People really want to live there now, which was just not the case when I was there in high school. So I've seen some things like that where access and trails can really like improve a community and
Mm,
change a place, and thought that was just so inspiring. And the way they've built the trails is really inspiring too. Just like getting all these private landowners to agree on something is so cool. I feel like you could never get that done in Montana.
yeah.
And yeah, it's all these people that are just psyched to have people riding on their property and sharing their space. Um, and then yeah, seeing like this growth of the sport, having friends that I thought would never be into it, all of a sudden be like, I bought my first mountain bike and be all excited. So I think that part has been just like really um, rewarding to watch. And yeah, I just believe that it really does like help people and improve people's lives. We're really focused also on not so much like the race and competition side, but more the adventure and exploration side. Like my partner and I have done a couple bike packing trips that are just, when I look back on them, they're some of our best vacations and best memories of just like that combo of being on your bike and seeing a new place or meeting new people, for sure. So there's like a lot of different things that I love about the bike community, and feeling like the inclusivity of it too is really cool. And I don't want to say that like skiing doesn't have it, but like I don't know if skiing has it the same way that
Yeah.
bike has. Like they're kind of, I don't know. It's just we go to, when we first launched, um we launched in September, and then like 3 weeks later went to that Rome Fest event, and that
Oh,
was
yeah.
just like so amazing. And like the love and joy there of like all these women on bikes. I don't know. It's just something pretty special about the bike community. And I feel like there's a little bit of like weirdness too that really aligns with the Curious Creatures brand. Like people are kind of on the fringes. They like things to be a little bit funky and
Yeah.
strange. Um, and and then the last answer is probably just that skiing is a little bit too close,
Yeah,
like my
yeah.
whole family is skiing. Yeah, like I think I told you, my mom was in the Olympics for skiing, my cousin. So it was kind of like the ski world. I love it for sure.
Yeah.
I don't want to say anything too bad, but it's like a
Right.
little too close.
Well, yeah, and I mean, that's just part of our human evolution anyways, right? Is you can still have something be very close to your heart and love it, but things can just poke
Yeah,
ahead of each other at different phases and
totally.
different times of our lives, and especially when it comes to something that has maybe been tied into work for you. It's like you were designing and part of like creating ski and snowboard like outerwear. So I'm sure it could be nice to like transition a little like, you know what, I want to
Yeah,
take this back for myself and focus on something more that is just a little
yeah,
more it's hard for me to even say like I don't want to say like more important because like I said I think things can still be just as important to you in your values and your heart and soul, but like I said they just pull ahead sometimes where that's just where you want to put your focus to. And I 100% agree that the snow community doesn't feel as inclusive or and I think that's because of accessibility. Mountain biking obviously has its own price tag on it with bikes being so expensive,
sure.
but
Yeah,
you don't have to have the most high end bike to get outside. And even if that is like, yeah, mountain biking, like on the trails, you can still get out there on an inexpensive bike. But skiing has so
Yeah.
many other parts to it. Like, it
Lots of
is cold
barriers. Yeah.
weather. Yep. The
Mhm.
cost to travel and the daily passes. Like, if you have a bike, you can get out there on whatever clothes or shoes you're wearing.
Yeah. On anything,
So
just pavement. Yeah.
mhm, yeah,
And then
exactly.
lastly, which I forgot to say is really from a product perspective, this is really important actually. I feel like I answered that very like my personal stuff, but I feel like from a product perspective, the snow world is pretty covered. Like people are really psyched on most of their snow kits.
Mhm,
Whereas I felt like in my community, I was still riding a lot, especially with women who were like, I still can't find shorts that fit, or like, I still don't like these colors, or I still don't have exactly things that like make me feel good or make me feel like myself on the bike. So yeah, there was a real product need there too, which I feel like in snow, I just wasn't hearing as much. People were pretty happy with everything that's out there. And
yeah,
I felt like, yeah, in order to bring something new, it had to really be different and had to really be needed.
I think that's a great point for sure, especially with women, because I still know there's obviously a lot of bike clothing companies out there, but they are facing, I think it's the same thing that's happened in every industry and just for women in general, where the men's line was created first, so they're cool, we'll dive into women's now and we'll make the shorts, but it's very much can be for a straight bodied, like smaller person, and just not even really include a wide variety of bodies or people or things. And I
Yeah.
think the smaller apparel companies like yourself have can really hit the niche a little bit better of like really focusing on women in general. And what you have done is opposite of many of these, where you started with a women's line and then created a men's. So I'd love to hear a little
Yeah.
bit about how that if you from the beginning, did you plan on offering to both, or were you like, I want to start a women's apparel company, and then it just evolved from there?
Yeah, I had always planned on doing both.
Okay.
I think because a little bit of even going back to some of my background, like I was working on a ton of women's product, but I also did the men's too.
Mhm.
Like it was just the way it was, and I think with my with my design training and stuff, I really do believe that if you make product for you should be able to make good product regardless of your gender, right? Like we
Mhm.
don't make um and if you make the best, most comfortable bike short for women, I thought it was just like always a really good challenge to like, okay, let's make it for men too. And it's a tricky thing to talk about because I don't want to like take anything away from the for women by women thing, which is like
Mhm.
so great, but it has been interesting in the outdoor industry how it feels like women are so supportive of another women's brand,
Mhm.
and it's just like so positive and great, but it does feel like the industry in general still is really eager to like pigeonhole a women founded company into making only women's stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of honestly just a little surprised by it, because I thought like, oh, if we want to make both, we'll just make both and it won't be a big deal. But it has been like pretty challenging, honestly. Like the women are so supportive and so receptive, and then men walk by and they see two women working our booth and they're just like, oh, I'll get something for my girlfriend. And you have to
Mhm.
be like, no, we do make men's stuff. Like it's just kind of an assumption that exists. And yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's just the reason I did it is because I feel like if we do make really good product, it I do want to make it for both genders. You know, I ride with men a lot. Married to a man.
Yeah.
I want him to be able to wear the stuff.
Yeah.
just things like that. But it's not, I don't want it to at all take away from the like beauty and power that is the for women by women
Hmm.
um, part of it too.
Well, it can be a
Does
hard
that
line
make
to
sense?
walk. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a hard line to walk right now, because, like you said, there just can be people who are like, okay, well, how are you like, can be not necessarily about you or anything, but there can be women out there even too. They're like, well, you started with women's and you're for women and this, and then so now why are you offering it to men? Or there, and I think that's because they'll be scared that it's gonna get like the women's side is gonna get taken away or put in the back seat, and the
Uh-huh.
men's ultimately will become the focus or something, because that is just what we've dealt with for so long. When it in other companies, you see a lot when there's budget cuts, the women's line gets cut first and things. So I think that it could be when people see that you carry both, again, not you specifically, but just have that kind of fear that the woman stuff isn't the forward and as important, and it's easier when you see just only women's that are like, okay, you're always going to be focused on me.
Focus.
So I think
Yeah.
that's just a consumer thought, but it's also crazy, like you mentioned, being at shows or events or something and being two women working in a booth that men are going to instantly think that now, like, oh, then this is a women's brand. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
there could be two women that happen to be working in, another booth that you just know carries men, and you're like, you don't really think about it, but it's
Right. Or
it's
a
all
man that
interesting.
started a company. Like how many men have started Lululemon? Like why did
Yeah.
nobody ask him why he was making women's stuff? Like we kind of don't, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, and especially in even like the fashion world, it was like all men making women's dresses, and that was like totally fine, right?
Hmm.
But then it's just
Yeah.
like a interesting. I think about it a lot, and I don't know what the answer. Like, there's no answer, but it's just an. It's almost like the outdoor industry is so willing and ready, and they've made so much progress in the past 10, 15 years, but they're still kind of like, okay, women, you can really just be only on this side.
Hmm. Yeah. Absolutely, and I think that's just society still is the problem. That's what
Yeah.
we're still fighting for as a society, is that it is still they're trying to put a line down it that you're over here and you're over here. But I mean, I was thinking about this just the other day through my travels and with preparing to have you on, and I'm thinking of some other companies that are women only, but how many men put their stuff on and they're like, why don't you make men's? And Dovetail comes to mind for me because I did
Oh,
work with
yeah.
them and an ambassador, and there were so many men who would try their pants on, especially uh, smaller men, because Dovetail offers such smaller sizes for women that men can't normally find in the men's wear. But they're like, yeah, what, can you just make this for men? And they're like, well, no, you already have a million options. Like, we're not
Yeah, you
gonna
guys got enough.
like, you can just wear this, like, why would we need to make it specifically for men if you like it now? Like, what is it that we need to do? Obviously that's nuanced in a million things, but it's like, just
Uh-huh.
wear it, just like all of us women had to do. Just wear the
Right.
men's
How
shit
many
until there was
times
an
do you
option.
Totally. I'm so glad we're talking about this because, yeah, even when I started, one of my original ideas was just to make everything unisex and just
Mm-hmm.
have everything be, built for like body shapes and body types and like get really far away from the gender thing because I
Mm-hmm.
felt like I shopped in the men's section a lot. And um, long story short, it just like broke people's brains and like
Yeah.
still continues to really like people have a hard time, especially shopping online. They just go gender first.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we still do offer a unisex. One of our best-selling shorts is unisex, so it's both men and women buy it, and non-binary folks and everything. So I am really proud of still keeping that. And yeah, like just to your point, having some men's stuff in the line just means I get to service more body
Mm-hmm.
types too. Like I have a good friend that is a ripping rider and she's a crazy good athlete, but she's like 6'5" and she wears the men's pants. And
Mm-hmm.
if we didn't make those men's pants, she wouldn't be able to wear any of our stuff. So I do like that it's kind of just more offerings for more different types of bodies. And for all of our unisex styles, we do try to show it on both a man and a woman. And yeah, just like trying to let people know to feel free to shop however they want to, like just buy what fits you. And yeah.
I love that. And I love that idea of trying to like having the idea of just unisex, because I know that's also something that is happening. I think it was REI who launched a line that was non-gender, and I think that breaks people's brains too, because then they
Yeah.
just think it is for people who don't associate with a gender, so they're like, "Oh, it's not for me because I do associate with a gender," and it's just like, no, it's
It's
just
so
about, like, this is the
yeah.
size, like, this fits your
Just
body if
wear
you
what
have a
you want. I
yeah.
know. It's such a funny thing, huh? Like, even kids' clothes, like, I get frustrated buying clothes for my 1.5-year-old because you go on the website and it's like boys, girls, and all the girls' stuff is still pink, and
Mhm.
all the boys' stuff is blue, and they're babies, like, their bodies are the same, like, the fit
Yeah.
doesn't matter. It should just all be one T-shirt, and I don't know, it's just, like, such a funny thing, but
Absolutely.
it's a good challenge. I do still really like making unisex stuff because, and when we do make it, we do it a little bit, not backwards, but we do it backwards than most places I've worked because I've made some unisex stuff at other companies, and usually what that means is you build a men's product, and then at the end of the development, at the third proto, you try it on a woman, and you're like, okay, pretty good. And so what we did is just the opposite. It's
Mhm.
much harder to fit on women.
Mhm.
So we built it on the woman's body first and got it pretty dialed there. And then we brought in the men's fit model and made sure it worked for men and that way. And we even switched the sizing too. Like I'm sure you're pretty used to doing the size conversion in your head where you're like, okay, I'm going to buy this men's t-shirt, so I'll size down one. We kept it women's sizing so that the men have to
Oh,
do the conversion.
yes. That was the
So
biggest thing with Dovetail for Men was the sizing. They're like, "I have no idea what size I am."
yeah,
They're like, "Well, figure
yeah,
it out."
yeah. I hope we make it kind of easy, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
challenging.
So I'm curious, what is your flagship, like, product for Curious Creatures? Is that is it the unisex, or are they 2 different 2 different products?
Yeah, that's the Ramble Scramble short that I'm talking about. It's kind of our most premium short, and it is a really good bet. It's one of the best sellers, I think. And it's great because it's a pretty short inseam. It's like 7 inches, which is it's short for men, but and then I made actually like a longer version for men, and men continue to buy the shorter one.
Oh, nice.
It still outperforms the longer one. So there is definitely a lot of male riders out there just wanting something a little bit shorter and less baggy. And then they're really great for trips and stuff. Like I always pack them because they look pretty casual. You mentioned Dovetail, like they kind of have a workwear styling. Um, but it's still 100% polyester fabric, 4-way stretch, and all those things. It's great for sweating and actually biking. But then if you did want to go out to dinner afterwards or needed to pack them for a trip, they're really good for that kind of stuff. Yeah, those are great. I think our Sundog pants, though, have been the real uh, sleeper hit. I think
Yeah.
people are really psyched on those. Just the really comfortable waistband, the 4-way stretch fabric, and those are the ones that I'm pleased with because at events and stuff, it's often like all different shapes and sizes, and people that are like, I have never been able to find pants that fit me. And so those make me feel good when people say that.
Yes, those are the ones that I tried on the Sundog short and pant because I just really wanted to get away of a button and zipper. And I know
Yeah.
there's not that many options. I know I've tried some others too that work great that are just that waistband, but yeah, it can always be a worry of like, well, are they gonna get kind of too stretchy? There's no belt loop option.
Uh-huh.
But they, oh yeah, when I put those pants on, I was like, these are the best fitting and most comfortable pant because I am a bigger, a lot of people women specifically have the problem of like a small waist but big thighs and butt,
Sure.
and so
Yeah.
when they size up, it doesn't fit. But for me, I mean, I still have a like big muscular thighs and whatnot, but I do have a bigger waist, but I have,
Mhm.
smaller calves and things. So when I size up in pants, they get so baggy in
Weird.
the legs
Yeah.
and especially the lower leg and ankle. And I just hate it. So the Sundog, when I tried it on in a 14, I was like, okay, this is great because I still have some shape in my lower leg and in the ankle. And I don't feel like I'm just now in a straight, like baggy,
Oh,
what
yeah.
do you call those? Like coffee bag, the potato sack. Yeah, like I
Oh,
don't feel like I'm in like now a
coffee
potato
bag.
sack. Yeah, you see someone in a size 6 or even 8 and it's like, okay, that has a nice silhouette. But like I said, when I would get up to size 14 or 16 and then just the bottom half would feel so, even in skinny jeans, I have this problem like, okay, this isn't skinny anymore. Just because I'm this size in my waist doesn't mean my ankles and calves are now a
Yeah,
circumference of 15 or something. So I put those on. I was like,
totally.
okay, these first of all, so comfortable and soft. And then, like I said, the fit was, I just felt like they were the most flattering. And I obviously am like way into like more function than fashion because you have to be, I think, as a woman. We're also just
Yeah.
trained to be. But goddamn, does it feel good to feel good and like be
Yeah.
able to feel comfortable? Like, okay, if I am going straight to coffee or beer or dinner or something after a ride, I don't feel like a frump. And I feel like I actually kind of look, I can still look cute without just being like, oh yeah, I just got off the trail looking like just a weird dude.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice of you to say. I really do appreciate it because all that stuff is like, yeah, lots of work. The grading that you talked about, it's like looking at every size and making sure the calf and the thigh grade appropriately and all these things. So it's nice to hear it's paying off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's a
impossible to
little bit
please
of just like,
everyone.
yeah, product. I think that is a little bit of a nice uh thing that we have just being product people is like we
Mhm.
are really perfectionists about the product and um yeah, I think that
Awesome.
helps, but
Yeah,
we'll have to
well,
get you a pair. You have to tell me what color you want.
oh yeah, 100%, 'cause I'm in a pant comparison right now. I've got a pair I've tried only on a short little like clinic thing I did at Sea Otter, and so I'm happy that the
Nice.
weather isn't like super. It's a pant day for sure to ride to town. So I was like, all
Yeah.
right, this will give me a good. It won't be on trail, but it will still give me a long time. It's like an hour bike ride into town, so it'll give me a nice feel for them. So
Yeah. That's a good
yeah, because
testing.
pants have been the hardest thing for me to find mountain biking. So yeah. But
Yeah.
anyways, it has been so great to like hear your story. And before we wrap up too, I would love for you to obviously tell people where they can find you. And I know that being May now, I think that your full spring launch is out there and available. But if there is
Yeah.
anything like new or exciting or whatnot for people to keep their eye on, let us know. And that can even also be events. Like if you are going to be at Rome Fest, which we are, woo, can't wait.
Yay.
But
Yeah.
yeah, let the people know all the info.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we're online at wearecuriouscreatures.com or follow us on Instagram at wearecuriouscreatures. And yeah, we'll be at a bunch of events this summer. Going to Bentonville Bike Fest next week.
Oh,
We'll
wow.
definitely be at Rome. We'll be up in Bellingham at the Sturdy Dirty and the Northwest Tune Up again. So good times all around there. But yeah, the best place to buy is online. We're in a few retail shops in Pine Mountain Sports in Bend and Owen House in Bozeman and a couple others, but I won't list them all here.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's super fun to talk. And yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're really excited to be able to get to at least see you at Rome Fest, if not any of the events before. Sturdy Dirty's up in the air for us this year. I think my co-host Amber may attend just as
Nice.
a for fun. Maybe she'll volunteer, be on the course or something like that. And
Yes.
I'm just not sure if I'll be able to make it back up to Washington in July for it, but I haven't put it off the
Yeah.
table. So that may be the first place we get to connect in person, if so, but otherwise Rome Fest for sure. And
Yeah.
I definitely encourage those out there, men or women who's listening, like the Sundog. I didn't try the Ramble Scramble because I was on the mission of like no
Yeah,
buttons,
for sure.
but I do love
No,
the
you
way
can't
that
go
they look.
wrong.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with the Sundogs. It's true.
Yeah.
And actually, one I just thought of, I think we're supporting the Dames of Dirt in something in your area, in the
Oh,
Tahoe,
cool.
Kentucky area. Yeah. So I personally won't be there, but we'll send some stuff up and
That's awesome
support
because
them a bit.
I'm doing actually a Rome in the Wild pop-up with them. So I reached out to Rome about doing one of their pop-up in the wilds in Tahoe, and then Dames of Dirt is the group that I ride with here and there, and so I asked them if they wanted to collaborate as well. So the three of
Oh,
us, the Rome Fest,
fun.
Dames of Dirt, and myself, are putting on a pop-up on June 8th here in Tahoe. So
Sick.
yeah, I'm pretty excited
Cool.
for that. But that's
That's a
awesome.
good goal.
I'll have to reach out to Maggie and see what event it is that that you guys are what else they're doing, because I know they have a ton of events,
Yeah.
especially starting now. So that's amazing.
Sweet.
Cool. Well, Natasha, thank you so much again for joining, and hopefully we get to have you on the pod again and definitely make that real life connection sometime over the next few months of bike season.
Yeah, thanks. Keep up the good work. I love listening to everyone's stories. So
Oh,
you do a great
thank you
job.
so much. All right, everybody out there, thanks for listening. Remember, go check out wearecuriouscreatures.com. Check the show notes for all the links and ways to follow and all that stuff. And we will talk to you all next week. We hope you enjoyed this episode and would do us a huge favor, since we don't have any sponsors or anything like that, and would rate and review us on whatever platform it is you use, Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, whatever it is. And if you're listening and downloading just through the website, tearingituppodcast.com, leave comments. We'll definitely engage back with you. And on social media right now, we're just on Instagram. Tearing It Up Podcast is the handle. Like the post, share the post, comment on the post, whatever it is you got. Show us your love so we just stay relevant and show up in the rankings at all. So again, rate and review, please. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.